Here is my collection of those people talking about their experiences not being so great. Would you still be there, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the type of guy that goes, leaves places. I find my spot and I just keep going. So yeah, I think as long as that show were still happening, I would have been there.
Yeah, and so there was these changes. We've seen this big summit meeting on YouTube. We've heard about it. Howard wants A-list guest, and he's got this PowerPoint that he's put up in his crazy office. What was it like just for you as there was these changes? We all have heard of MARCI coming through. I don't know if she dealt with you guys as much, but what was it like for you?
Honestly, it felt like the beginning of the end. It felt odd. It felt everything that the show was great for was being changed. And we all were sort of looking at each other, rolling our eyes, going, what the hell is happening?
Doug, was that across the board? News department feels it. The TV department feels it. The wrap-up show.
Listen, I won't name names, but everyone was just in disbelief and shaking their head after that summit. And when certain people came on board, it was just, what the heck? Look, it was bizarre. It was
the part about the summit that I liked was that Howard was pushing for more guests. And there was a real attitude towards guests before that. Gary would never look for guests, and Howard would not want him to do that. And he used to always shock me. I'm like, hey, this guy's in town. Why aren't we getting them on? But Howard just had this different take. If they want to come on, they know where to find us. And so I enjoyed that part of that summit where Howard was saying, hey, we're going to go out and get the guests for once and have a actual booker for the show. But it was the rest of the stuff that was odd.
Hey, can I ask you one question?
Sure, you just did.
How about a second question? That'd be great. Hey, what do you think about Howard Stern on America's Got Talent? I haven't seen it.
You did these interviews for a long time. You were paid by Howard, right? And then in 2009.
Not necessarily. That's not true. I was paid by the radio station. Okay. I was paid by KLSX for producing the show, and that was part of my deal. I'd go out and do the celebrity interviews and produce his show. And I sort of cut a deal with that radio station. But Howard never paid me. I mean, the only time I really got paid from Howard was when he left for Sirius, and I got paid by Sirius Radio for a couple of years. But no, the radio station, Howard never dropped a dime on me.
But I kind of forgot that you were around during the Sirius days. So what happened at the end there? I remember things. You had a confrontation with him on the air, right? And because he said you were too aggressive or something on the red carpet. Give me the end of the time with Howard.
Yeah, I mean, it goes deeper than that. It was 2006, and I was sort of getting sick of being in radio. And I wanted to produce reality TV shows and stuff like that. And I created a reality TV show. Following porn stars around for a day in the life of a porn star. And I pitched it to Howard TV and Doug Goodstein, and, Doug liked the idea, and we went back and forth for 6-7 months, tweaking it, me and my buddy. And at the end, and we had a meeting with my lawyer, conference call, where they were going to pay me a certain amount of money per episode. They're going to do 4 to 6 episodes. And then, it sort of just went down the tubes. We even shot one. I took a crew from Los Angeles, and they took a crew from New York. We did it in Vegas at the AVN Awards. Called it A Day in the Life with, JD was dating her or something like that. We were following JD and some Courtney Combs. I don't know who the hell it was. But anyways, I brought a crew, and I thought this was cool. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be a reality TV producer. It's going to, because I knew that was the beginning of it in 2006. And my buddy, who was the camera guy and my producer, had shot a lot of reality TV shows. So we were like, oh, this is going to be the start of us being producers and stuff. And then it just faded. They just sort of put it on the back burner. And it sort of really hurt my feelings, man, because I spent a lot of time on that. I mean, a lot of my time. And they said we had a deal. And then they turned around and did some of these episodes with Jessica Hahn and Bigfoot and Miss Black Howard Stern. I'm like, wow, they took my idea. Not that I have a patent on it or whatever, but they took it and didn't even give me a penny. And, I'm left, with my dick in my hand, with these two shows where they could, Howard was making $100 million a year. He could have thrown me, hey Gary, you know what? We're going to pass on this, but here's $5,000 for your time or whatever. I know you spent 6 months on it. Nothing. They didn't give me a penny. Nothing. And that's what really pissed me off. And that's when I was like, fuck these guys. They're fucking assholes. They took this idea. I've been a loyal foot soldier for 15 years, produced the show, getting up at 2:00 in the morning for 15 years, going out and doing these celebrity interviews while I was working. I'd go do the celebrity interviews, go home for a minute, and then come back, and go back to work at 2:00 in the morning. So I was working around the clock. And for them to do that, and Howard knew about it, because everything goes through Howard, by the way. Nothing does not go through Howard. He knows every fucking inch of his show or what's going on behind the scenes or whatever. So when they did that, it left a really sour taste in my mouth. I was like, fuck these guys. They just fucked me royally. And not only that, but they're fucking doing shows with other characters, and not even give me a dime, nothing. So I sort of self-sabotaged myself. Instead of saying, fuck you guys, I'm leaving, like I should have, I sort of just went out to an event and I created whole havoc because I intentionally did it. And I guess the public relations firm called Sirius and Scott Greenstein and said, hey, if you have this guy at any more events that we're doing or wherever or on the red carpet, you'll never have another one of our celebrity guests on Sirius Radio. And that's how it went down. Then they said, hey, we got to let you go. There was a couple more instances before that, where I'd get pushed around and shit, but nothing really hardcore and heavy. One other instance, there's one online with this camera guy. But he created the havoc at the beginning and then, but listen, it is what it is. I mean, the bottom line is, I did great work for him. I got hassled. Nobody since has been able to do that shit out here. I mean, there's been no replacement, even though I think they've tried a couple times. So I'm not, I just felt bad that they fucked me. And that, and then that's when I went on, about a year later, I had a little podcast show that I went off and totally went off on Stern. And somebody, I guess he heard it and called me that morning, the Monday morning afterwards. And that's when we had the confrontation on the air.
Which is what he wanted, right? He loves that.
Oh yeah, basically he called me. I had partied at a famous Mexican restaurant called Casa Vega in Studio City that like all the celebrities go to. I mean, major, from Marlon Brando to the Kardashians to I saw so many. Anyways, I used to live like 100 yards from there, and I'd get wasted. I mean, it was like the coolest place to go. So I partied that night, and then like 5:30 in the morning, I got a call, and I'm like hungover, half asleep and hungover. And, Gary says, hey, Howard wants to talk to you, I'm like, all right, put him on. So that's basically what went down. And that's when he's like denying that he kept on saying, what's day in the life, Doug? And Doug came in and denied everything. And they denied everything. I mean, Howard acted like there was no day in the life. I go, you did day in the life. You did day in the life with Bigfoot. You did day in the life with Jessica Hahn, and he just totally blew me off. And that's when it was like, fuck you, man. I mean, listen, Howard put me on the map. I'm very thankful for my time with the show and my time at KLSX. And, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today, which is not, it's cool. I mean, I'm digging what I'm doing. I mean, it's fun to be able to be independent, but I mean, he put me on the map and I'm very thankful for it. But I mean, I did give him a lot of good material. I laid my ass on the line for him many, many times. I was a fucking loyal foot soldier. And not only that, but producing the show too, and not fucking that up. It is what it is. I got nothing but respect for Howard, but I just don't like that he lied. He lied about what went down. He fucking knew about Day in the Life. He knew. Doug knew. If you listen to the phone call, in fact, maybe I'll play it this week, on my show. Doug even denied, what are you talking about? And I have 50 emails going back and forth with him and I, that I still have to this day. So.
Well, I get the sense if you listen to the show now, the Stern Show, you wouldn't be on anyway. There's no fun being had in the last 8 or 9 years. So,
yeah, I people told me about the show and that every now and then they listen to it. And he says he's completely changed. It's a completely different show and all that. I haven't heard the show since 2008. I haven't heard 1 second of it. But listen, it's cool. I still play his interviews. I still play my interviews. He's never gave me any shit about that. He's on the air every now and then, when he's making comments. So, which I really appreciate. I've never had a call saying, hey, cease and desist or anything like that. So, as far as I'm concerned, he's the greatest broadcaster in radio history. He's the Michael Jordan of talk shows, no doubt. And, I have a lot of respect for him. It just the way it went down. And then, I just sort of felt like slapped in the face a little bit. Like, here I busted my ass for you so many years. When the FCC was coming down, I saved the Los Angeles license because they fined us $100,000. They flew in a lawyer from New York to show me how to cut the show up. And Howard would talk about it and rail on me on the show. And I was like, probably would call me. Hey, did you cut this out? I go, yeah, Gary. Call New York. Call corporate. I go, call corporate. They told me to cut it out. Okay, I just want to make sure. I go, yeah. Call them up. So, I did a lot for that show. I laid my ass on the line, and it just felt like, it hurt me. It was like a slap in the face when they couldn't even throw me a bone, for trying to produce a reality TV show.
Yeah, what were those last days like? As you're watching Howard say, "Yeah, I have an idea. We're gonna get rid of Howard TV, but I have an idea." What was it like? Because it happened on the air. He didn't tell anybody, as usual.
Yeah, we all were shocked. First thing I did is I turned around and looked at Doug, and Doug sort of seemed dumbfounded too. So we had heard, I had been through probably 5 or 6 contract negotiations, whether it be radio or TV along the way. So I was just assumed that, this is just going to be another one of those negotiations. But when he said it was going away, I still didn't believe it. I sort of was like, he's really negotiating, But then as we heard more, and then Howard took us, had a little brief meeting with us after the show, that it seemed real. And I was like, oh, this doesn't sound good. But I still hoped that someone would come in. I thought, he's doing the radio show. Why wouldn't he want the free money to do the television show? We didn't ask for anything of him. He literally just had to do the show, and we would handle the television part. So I really thought it would come back, and it didn't. And I've heard various reasons for that, but who knows?
So I'll let either of you answer this because it's probably difficult, but it now is being done the exact same way you guys did it. You set the template, and Sirius puts out clips, and it's basically done through Sirius. Why? My question would honestly be, why didn't they just ask you guys back? Or did you think there was something there that they didn't want this group back? They want to do their own?
No, that's a good question. It did take 3+ years for them to get back and do it. I think there was just like one intern or someone just pressing buttons, and it was like that for a while. The only way I saw it is, and I don't know how else to see it, is the clips on Twitter. And I would call Scott and be like, I can't even watch more than 10 seconds of this. It's just, they're destroying it. It's definitely gotten a lot better since with the clips I've seen. They've definitely put some meat into it and good production quality. But at the beginning, it took years before they had, I think what Scott was saying, we just thought there would be, just like we went from E to In Demand, there'd be a seamless transition. And that transition didn't happen. And it took years for anyone to come and pick it up. And that's, I don't know if you could say no one picked it up and Sirius took it over, or I don't know what happened there, but that's what happened.
They had our phone numbers. They knew how to get in touch with us. I'm curious to this day why they didn't, whether it be, I've thought of everything. Was I too political? What did Howard, was he not into the arguing anymore? Did MARCI think we were bad for the culture there? So did we get paid too much? I don't know. It could have been any reason, but they never called. They called for one thing, to help I'll tell you a story. After we had just left, Gary asked Doug and I to help with the birthday show that was coming up. Howard's big, 60th birthday party, I think. So we had been through those. Doug always ran the whole, practically the guts of the behind the scenes of the show. So he and I went in, took a meeting in the city, and I told him, here's where you're going to want Howard. Here's where you're going to want the stage, blah, blah, blah. I told him a bunch of stuff. Doug then went, put all the finances together and said, all right, this is what it's going to take. Then I hear from a camera guy who I know, who talked to my wife and said, Scott asked me to do the birthday show, but I've just been hired by another director. I was like, what? So we call up Gary, and Gary was like, oh, how'd you find out? Like, not, sorry, I should have told you guys. I mean, we had taken these meetings and we budgeted the whole thing and we had worked on it. And it just felt like we're already down because we're looking for work now. And then he just kicked us in the nuts,
Yeah, that's a story that, I moved on. I didn't really look back, but that was the hardest pill to swallow. That was just classless and disgusting. Let's not sugarcoat it. That was pathetic and really just unforgivable. And why it was done, I don't know, but I know that didn't just sting. That hurt, and it hurt Scott. It hurt everyone on the TV team. People were just in disbelief. And then to make it even worse, not one person from the TV crew was even invited to the actual party after that classless act. And then on top of that, there were empty seats that they were handing out free tickets on the street to strangers the night of the event. So
yeah, we were told there were no seats left.
That what?
We were told there were no seats left. That's why we couldn't go.
Yeah, and I was told directly from someone why we weren't invited, and it was someone's decision who came on board late and late in the game. I don't know what the vendetta was or what kind of mindset or what kind of insanity was going on where you rationalize and justify not inviting a loyal set of troopers after you just took the gig away from them without even telling. Listen, this is the stuff that people know about. I'm not shedding light. I'm maybe shedding a little more light on it, but these stories are out. You've heard these. That's the truth. Okay. That owed everyone an apology, but of course not, because that's not the way it works over there.
How do you? Baba Booey's been there forever. He's very loyal to Howard. Do you just chalk it up to that, or do you go, come on, be a human being?
I don't think Gary had anything to do with it.
I'm just saying anything that happens with Gary and just he's been shit on for so many years, but has a huge house, has beautiful stools in his basement. Is that just what it kind of is? Is that he's just a loyal soldier and he's going to retire happy and wealthy?
He's not going to ruffle any feathers. He's got a great gig. Listen, he's ridden the wave for this long, and he's probably close to retirement age. So I get after the next contract, he's probably done.
I don't think Gary was going to go to bat for me anytime soon after the whole sleeping video that Doug really was responsible for. But I took the heat.
I just watched that again I do research here, and the research is watching old clips on YouTube, and that is hilarious. Just some of the stuff that goes on. Now, do you guys watch YouTube and look at some of these old things, or is it, I did it, I don't care, I'm not that big a fan, I'm pissed off or whatever?
A lot of people, I'll be on the golf course, and a lot of people ask me Stern stories, and I always come up with the same 4 or 5 stories, and I'm like, so every once in a while I'll look for something and watch something and it reminds me. But no, I don't really do a lot of Howard Stern YouTube watching. Because, ultimately I feel like that's partly why the show went away. YouTube killed our job.
YouTube was a big problem. We couldn't keep up with the piracy. And for every show we would get taken down by the legal team, 10 of them would go up, to the point where we'd see a direct correlation with subscriptions starting to go down as the content on YouTube went up. And it was in the infancy of piracy, basically, with people putting so much stuff up on YouTube and stealing. They just couldn't control it.
Are we listening to the show now? Do we care? Do we even, or is it too bitter?
I'll listen to some of the interviews. That's about all that that reminds me of the Stern Show I worked on. Let's put it that way. The interviews are great. The rest of the stuff, not for me.
Doug?
Maybe I'm older. I don't know.
I listen. I just check out the clips on Twitter, and that's it.
It's evolved. It's very evolved, that show. Evolved
to what?
I would say it devolved into Howard and Robin having a long conversation that's very, very... I'm bored, and boring is what I would call it. But.
No, it wasn't until recently that Howard and I stopped speaking or communicating, I guess. For years, I would email him every so often and, how's Beth? How are you? How's your dogs? What's going on? And he'd write back. Usually not much. Dogs are fine, Beth's fine, and that was about it. But I wrote him. Do you remember when he was on the Bill Maher show?
Yeah.
Not all that long ago. And those two never got along. And I told both of them a million times, if you ever just sat and talked, you would like each other because you're very much the same. Neither one was. But then Howard went on his show and gave what I thought was just a wonderful interview. And, about his therapy and how it's really turned him around and all this stuff. I thought it was just great. So I wrote him a letter, an email, and said, wow, I just thought you were fantastic with Bill and, and so open and honest about your therapy and, congratulations. And you just sound terrific. I'm very happy for you. And, and then the usual, how's Beth? How's the dogs? But it was kind of a beautiful letter, And he writes me back, thanks, Ron. I'm a work in progress. Period. Okay, so now I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking about all the times I've written him, how are you? What's going on? And gotten these one-sentence responses for the last few years. And so I wrote him back, and I said, Howard, you know what would be another great step in the right direction? I said, if you learn to type 3 words that would take you 2 seconds and make me feel good. And those words are, how are you? And that's what I wrote him. And then I didn't hear back for a long time. And then I thought, let me see if he even got this. So I start to write him another email. I send it, and it says blocked. Blocked. And I have like 4 different emails for him. Blocked all of them. And I just thought, what a little baby. What a fucking little baby. It's like the most easiest thing in the world to ask somebody. And certainly just manners, just manners. I don't care how rich you are. It's like, Howard, I know people richer than you. Okay, I've been with people richer than you, I spent 5 years sleeping with somebody richer than you. So, who the fuck are you? It's like Al Pacino calls me back and asks how I am. Fuck you. I didn't write all that. I didn't respond at all. Obviously, I couldn't anyway. But that's how I feel, which is just fuck you, Howard. You've been rich and famous too goddamn long, and you forgot who your real friends are. So, the hell.
Well, I thought he was in therapy. I thought he was fixing himself, but this is not. This is not seemingly the signs of someone who's right-minded.
Yeah, it's like he may be doing good with some of his stuff, some of his issues, but he certainly hasn't. Gotten to the point where he gives a shit about anybody else. And that's terrible, when Jackie left the show, I used to walk around the park with him. He's one of my best friends. And I, he was like, I don't know what to do. And, what now? And all this shit. I said, Jackie, I guarantee you, come with me tomorrow morning into the studio, sit down in your chair, and start working. And just go with the old Hollywood saying, it never happened. It never happened. You never quit. You haven't been gone. I just happened to be in town, and that was fun. But I said, just go back to work. He will let you. He wants you to go back to work. He just wants you to swallow a little pride. Okay, you can do that. You're man enough. And just go back to work. It never happened. And he almost did it. I had him so close. And then he didn't. And that was really disappointing, because I wanted to save the day, and I wanted to get Jackie back on there because I thought it was silly that he wasn't, but he wouldn't do it. Too prideful.
Well, Howard's always a bit paranoid. Howard doesn't come out of his bunker until like 7 p.m. And but look, Howard's not a bad guy. There's just been a lot of disparaging of Howard by ex-employees like Scott the engineer. Not so much Grillo, but Stuttering John for sure. There's been a plethora of them who have really criticized the work environment at Sirius, notably Howard.
But there's a lot more that don't say anything. And it's sort of odd that, it could be, hey, I want to do something different. I don't need to talk about Howard. But there's a lot that don't want to talk about their time there. They just will not.
Yeah, there's a lot that don't. But still, you have people like Jackie Martley, Stuttering John, Steve Grillo. They're more than willing to talk about Howard. And Scott the engineer. Tim Sabian had a rough time there. His father was dying of cancer, and Howard said, "Oh, I think we should part ways." I mean, that's not great labor relations. To me, it's more emotional terrorism.
No, yeah, definitely. Now, this was way before you started checking into him, but I always wondered what happened with that marriage. Have you ever been able to figure out? They're doing this. Private Parts comes out. They're a happy couple, and a year and a half later, they're not.
He just wasn't happy. I mean, they had grown apart, and it was time to move on. Howard was miserable, and like a lot of people in relationships, and he moved on and sort of found the love of his life, although there's rumors about that marriage now that I've heard. No proof, so I don't want to get too into it. But, Howard Stern is a legend, and he really broke new barriers in the radio and communications business. And set a huge template. So love him or hate him, you can't argue with his success.
And he's sort of kind of bulletproof because he did a lot of stuff in the 90s that you would get canceled for now, but it's seemingly, I mean, that tape's out there. You go to YouTube and watch it in blackface.
A lot of people on the show say the Me Too movement would have had a field day with Howard in his show. But look, somehow he remained bulletproof. You know, him and Ellen DeGeneres, they're the two big emotional terrorists now in the news. I mean, they've both been outed in the media. Ellen is stepping down. Let's see how much longer Howard. I mean, he signed a new contract, but let's see if he even fulfills the whole contract.
Even with that, again, I call Howard a hypocrite because, you know, he left K-Rock to go to, you know, to go to Sirius. You know, like, why is it okay for him to leave things, but it ain't okay for me?
It's very interesting. The more you talk about it, yeah, it's but no one can leave, which is crazy. But
well, yeah, I mean, you tell me one person, me, Jackie, Grillo, you tell me one person who's left and is actually on good terms now. I mean, we're all banned from the show. I mean, you know, and even Gary, if Gary talks to me, you know, he swears me to secrecy because he's afraid, because they're not even allowed to talk to us. You know, their staff now is not allowed to talk to us. And it's like, you know, I'll put it this way, they have a writer there now who I helped get the job. And he was a writer's assistant on The Tonight Show. And he was a friend of mine. And I helped get him the job there. And he came out to LA and he visited all his friends, and he would not even visit me because he was afraid to hang out with me, that he would, you know, that he'd get in trouble with Howard.
sounds like a concentration camp up there at Sirius. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, it's a real sick place. I mean, you know, I've spoken to, you know, I've done extensive, believe it or not, I have a lot of research on what goes on there now and what Howard has become, and I mentioned it in the book. It's sad in a way. He's become everything that he once goofed on. He's become everything that he once loathed. I mean, and it's just sad to see the transformation. I mean, some of it is good because he's making up with all the people that, and there's another hypocrisy. You know, he's making up with all these celebs like, you know, Rosie O'Donnell and all these celebrities that he once trashed, Jennifer Aniston, but yet he won't make up with us. He won't make up with the Stuttering John and Jackie the Joke Mans who helped him in like, it's not like, look, he gave me my start. He certainly helped me, but nobody's going to tell me I didn't help him by, you know, doing the interviews and being, you know, the Esther and, you know, doing stunts like stealing like Gary Puppet. I helped him with some damn good radio. There's a stutter. I wanted to give you one so you didn't think I was a fraud.
That was good. So once again, many folks had nice things to say about Howard, but then there's a few that did not. And, well, here, that was them talking about that. I thought people might enjoy seeing that. We're going to continue this series. I think I'm going to keep trying to find folks that people are interested in hearing from, and I'll take any comments in the comment section if you are interested in seeing folks who that you haven't heard from in a while. Also, check out my other Best Of series. I have a bunch of these folks talking about when MARCI TURK arrived, and that's in the description. You can find that link because I think a lot of people are interested in basically kind of the change of the Stern Show happening when that happened, actually. And many folks giving their Artie Lange stories, and hopefully Artie will be a guest here on this show. Hopefully. But that's going to do it. I'm your YouTube friend, Brad. We'll see you next time.